This week we are working on graphing and some statistical and slope-intercept forms. So it's kind of a lot of things that have to do with how to set up a graph and also how to deal with slopes and intercepts and the statistics that come from them. So you're going to see problems that look like this. So an average household expense for a consumer under 25 years of age are approximately $18,450. Okay, so you have the circle graph that breaks everything into the percentages that these age group, this 25 and under, would spend. So in the directions, it wants to know how much an average was spent for personal care. So in this, I can see personal care is right here. So personal care is 1.58%. Which, if I wanted to write that as a decimal, I would go 2 places, which would give me 0.0158. So if I take the total, that $18,450, and multiply it by 0.0158, that 1.58% as a decimal, I will get $291.51. Please be careful that you don't go more than one decimal place because this is money. So to the nearest hundredth is as close as we can get. Okay, they would like us to take this data and be able to make 2 line graphs. So the first time through, I'm going to kind of use these as my X and Y. Now, if I look at these, my biggest number for age is 45. So I have to be able to count through 45 across the bottom here. And probably for us, it's easier maybe if we do every other line and do like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Just going to make these little marks to make it a little easier to see. Which means the beginning here would have been 0. 35, 40, 45, 50, and I can keep going if I want. One thing I do need to realize though is that this is ages, and these would be in years. Now if I look at the amount of money it costs for these, back at our table, the highest in either column is 60. So I have to somehow be able to count up to 60 on this. So really if I go and look at this, oops, and do 15 kind of on this bold line, 30, 45, and 60. This would be based on the money for insurance premiums. Just going to abbreviate it so I can fit it. Now to be able to graph this, I'm going to have to make kind of almost a list of points. So if I did age and males, I put these together, so 25, 25 would be a point. 30, 30 would be the next one. 35, 35. 40, 45. And 45, 60. So now my job is to graph those down here. So first one would be 25, 25. Now, listen, if I did this to be 15, basically it means that each one of these would be 3, 6, 9, 12, basically by threes. 18, 20, 21, 24, 27. I don't know how much that will matter to you. But, I mean, obviously I don't have to label them. I just have to know that that's what it stands for. But sometimes it helps as you're going through to estimate where some of these are, that you actually know what it stands for. Okay, so 25, 25. So 25 and then 25 would maybe be a little over this line. Then it would be 30, 30. And then 35, 35. 40, 45. And then 45, 60. Now, you were told originally that you needed to be able to make a line graph. So I'm going to take my line and I'm just going to connect from point to point. Now you can start to see where they're not changing by the same amount, so you can see how it's starting to curve a little bit differently there. Okay, but this one then would be your males. So let's go back and look at the numbers for females. Choose a different color here. So if I did females, this is going to be my X and then this will be my Y. So for female, 25, 15, 30, 20, 35, 25, 40, 30, and 45, 45. So now my job is to graph those on this graph. So the first one that I have is 25, 15. And then 30, 20. 35, 25. 40, 30. And 45, 45. Now again, we need to make our lines straight between the points. So you have to be able to kind of mark them. Big thing on this is you got to be able to fit all the points. So if you have values that are, you know, they go up to 60, you got to make sure that 60 is going to fit going up. And then you have to make sure 55 or 45 goes across. Now, obviously, I know that there are numbers that continue out here. So I'm expecting that you're going to number something so it makes sense. If you count by fives, you're going to count by fives all the way down. So keep that in mind. Okay, now, the rest of this is going to be a little bit about graphing points, at least the next section. So negative 5, 1. So you start at 0, negative 5's this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 1. Okay, negative 6, 2. So start here, go over negative 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and go up 2. Six, negative 7, so positive 6 in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So negative 4, negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, these are really meant to give you an equation. So whatever x and y are, when you add them together, it's got to be 3. So really, if I were to add these two together, it's got to give me 3. So that would make x2, because they have to total 3 altogether. In this one, if they have to total 3, this would be 3. This one would have to be 2. Now, in this next one, whatever your x is, if you add 8 to it, you'll get to your y. So if I have negative 3 as my x, if I add 8 to it, I would get to 5. That would be my y value. Now this one's 11, which basically means that 11 here is going to be some number plus 8. So that number would have to be 3. Okay, and this one, when I take some number and add 8 to it, I get to 0. That means that this one would have to be negative 8. Now that's all about relationships and being able to calculate your numbers. So that's going to be super important that you can kind of follow these. Okay, now this one wants us to find the ordered pairs so that they're solutions. So here's going to be my x column, and I know that y is 6x plus 4. All the ones that they've given me here are x values. So 0, negative 1, and 1, I'm going to actually put and make a table here. So what I have to do is take this 0 and plug it in where the x is at. So 6 times 0 plus 4 would be what this first one would look like. The next one, I would plug in negative 1. The next one, I would plug in 1. Now, I think it's easier to go through and actually plug them all in to begin with, and then go back and solve them. So this, if I plugged it in my calculator, would give me 4. So that means 4 is going to go with 0. When I plug in this one, it's going to be negative 2. So that's going to be negative 2. This one I plug it in is going to be 10. So that means 10 goes up here with the 1 value. So it's all about making your table and plugging these values in for x kind of one at a time. Okay, next one. Find 3 ordered pairs that are solutions for this. So if I plug in an x value here, then I better get the y value out. So this one says plug in 7. So if I plug in 7, I should get 5. But when I plug in 7 here, I get 17. So this one does not work. Okay, also it means any other one that has 7, 5 doesn't work, which includes that one. Okay, now when I look at what's left, probably these zeros and the ones are probably the easiest to look at. So let's try this one. If I take this, if I plug in 0, it says I should get negative 4. So this actually gives me negative 4. So this one actually works. Now these are both the same. So I'm assuming that's going to have to be good to go or they would both be wrong. These both have the same point and these two would both have to be right. So C is my answer. Okay, this one. Plot 3 points and draw the line. So easiest numbers to plug in for me are probably 0, 1, and 2. And I'm going to plug them in for this equation. So 2 times 0 plus 6 is going to give me 6. So 0, 6 is going to be my first point. Next one, I have to plug in a 1, which would give me 8. So 1, 8 is going to be another point. And the next one, if I plug it in, it would be 10. So 2, 10.